Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Offside podcast. Another World Cup iteration. Very exciting. We're trying to do two a week, so stay tuned for more. Yeah, it's a Wednesday episode today, as obviously Monday we had quite a few fixtures, so we wanted to get a full round of fixtures in at least before we can have something to debate. But good to have you back on the show, boys. We're missing Emil, but our thoughts and prayers are with him after his near-death experience at football last night. Anyway,
Not me, by the way. There's another Paul in our group, not me. I'm clean.
no,
I'm clean.
you're innocent. But anyway, moving on, guys. I think World Cup. Just a quick introduction to the World Cup. We've had almost full round of fixtures. A lot of excitement, a lot of talking points. So I do think it's going to be a fun one tonight. But just before we touch on the games, there has been breaking news yesterday, which I wanted to discuss with you guys in terms of Man United. So first of all, Ronaldo officially sacked by the club. Whether it's mutual, whether they've both just decided it's time to call it. That's what the messages come out. That's not what I want to discuss. I actually want to discuss what followed it, which is Glazers officially putting the club up for sale. I'll start with Daniel on this one. I'll leave the United boys for last year. But Daniel, what's your take on the situation? Do you think it's come at the right time? Ronaldo, has he done anything to force this, or what do you think?
I don't think it's the Ronaldo factor. There are some, boys, I would say, on Twitter who are like, "Oh, Ronaldo forced them to sell," which is rubbish. I think those sale was in running for quite a while now. I'd have to say, ever since the huge protest that took place 2 years ago when the United fans managed to call the game off against Liverpool. I've read an interesting thing on Twitter. I think it was from Gunner Blog, who stated that it's very interesting after the Super League project collapsed. Both American fans, Liverpool and United, sorry, not fans, owners, have decided they're going to sell up the clubs. I think it's been coming for quite a while, in my opinion, at least. Now, the thing I was thinking of now, it will be interesting to see how the sale develops now, because we think about sales of this proportion, they don't usually go on for a quick time. Chelsea was a special circumstances. The reason why it was done so quickly. I think we need to look at Newcastle, how long and painful that was. It lasted for what, 2 years, a year and a half, with all due diligence and other things involved. Getting the right owners is also important. United might get some Saudi money or Middle Eastern money. However, they can get American money again. And I'm really interested to see as to what happens in this transition period, as to say. I'm not too sure, but I'm almost certain that the sale won't be completed until summer, at least. I think it'll take a while. So the January transfer window will be left at this stage, and maybe even the summer. We don't know who's going to be in the seat in the summer. And I think it's important to look at United and to see what's going to happen with their transfers and with their financial situations, because Glazers themselves have been very reluctant to invest. What about now when they're literally selling the club? Will they sanction big moves? Will they go off? Will they sign higher caliber players in order to, bolster up the sale of the club? So, as I think we discussed before the podcast, this is such a raw topic. We have no idea what's going on, and it would be, ludicrous for me to expand on that even more. So those are kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's a really good insight. Paul, I think we had a brief chat about it yesterday. I don't want to spend too much time on this topic, but what's your initial thoughts of the situation?
Initially, I am happy. There's no way to deny I was one of the big Glazer out people. On my Twitter, I've always had Newton Heath as my profile picture, so I am happy to see this happen. But as Daniel mentioned, you mentioned as well, it does bring some questions of like we had Ten Hag as a manager now, who we were understanding is going to be a long-term project. But if we have new owners in, and if they do adopt the Abramovich like model of like win quick and worry about the consequences later, was that put Ten Hag's role in jeopardy? I don't think it'll play too much of a factor in transfers because the Glazers have not put a single penny into the club. They've been taking millions out. Man United is self-sustainable. We don't have to worry about financial fair play rules because of how successful we are in business. But yeah, just more concerns about Ten Hag's position in the long-term run.
Yes, I think, all right, I want to come to you with this. I think I saw online, it's it's a bit of a talking point as to who's going to buy or potential buyers, and a major candidate would be US investors again. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. I know Glazers are absolutely ass, but what's your take on another set of investors coming into the club?
To be honest, grass isn't always greener on the other side. That's true, but we don't have any grass with the with the Glazers. So we've got a patch of dirt. I'm sure any owners are better than them. I do agree we need to get the right ones in. I know there's a lot of fans, and it happened with Liverpool as well, that sort of American ownership is almost globally, or at least in the Premier League, hated. I don't want to go down that route. I don't think we can generalize against American owners. They can also be very successful. Let's see what Todd Bowley does. I'm personally not opposed, and I know there's debate around this. I'm not opposed to Middle Eastern money. End of the day, I really just want people to come in who are wanting to see the club do well in football. The club needs money as an investment, not so much for players, because Paul's right. Like in the transfer window, we don't need investments from the Glazers, but we do need a big investment to build a new stadium. We need to upgrade our complex, the training facilities, and hire new chefs to please Ronaldo. And yeah, just speaking about Ronaldo to finish off, Ronaldo has had nothing to do with the Glazers leaving the club. And Daniel's completely right. If anyone thinks that he's had even 1% of a role, it's just trying to tie two things together to make Ronaldo look good. This sale has been going on for a long time, and I think I don't know if any of you listen to Mark Goldbridge, but he always, he speaks a lot of sense on this topic. That, like Daniel said, this sale was probably sanctioned from when the game was cancelled. And if we want to give credit, let's not give it to Ronaldo, who didn't respect the club. Let's give it to the club, to the fans of this club that have, for 17 years protested and got games cancelled. And let's give the credit where it's due, and not just tag something like this to Ronaldo because of what's going on.
Yeah, fair point of view for all of you. I personally think Ronaldo just have love for the club, and he's probably one of the happier guys in that dressing room or in that group of players to see the Glazers step out. I think he genuinely cares for the club, and everything that's happened has happened. We move on and we shake hands to part ways, but we can't say Ronaldo is not a club legend. And if he had any part to play, even if we have a 1% belief in us, let's not slate him for the player he is. But let's move on to more exciting today's topics, should we say? First, we're going to start off with the most depressing part of the round of fixtures, which is England absolutely destroying Iran.
Come on, England!
Paul, you can shut up, because we have evidence of you saying England is going to fucking bottle it. So
That's true.
I'm sorry. Before we kick off, I know I said it in the last podcast, but I just need to get it off my chest of what has been going on around the World Cup. I think a day after it kicked off or a day before. Not gonna take a long while, but it's just a farce. Infantino and his interview, or what he gave. I'm sorry. There's been so much bullshit spewed by him. I mean, I don't, honestly, the beer thing, I don't care if you can or cannot drink beer. When you gave the World Cup to Qatar, you should have known that the theocratic Islamic country will not allow you to drink beer. That's fair enough. But the way it was handled by Qatar, when they said, okay, you can have beer and stuff, then 2 days before the World Cup kicked off, I think after we recorded a podcast, they're like, yeah, nah, sorry guys, no beer for you or for anyone. But not just that, you can have beer if you pay 17,000 for a box. So I'm sorry, what is all that? Do FIFA think we're idiots? Do you think we will not notice that? And Infantino's, now moving on to Infantino's comments. Today I feel gay. Today I feel migrant workers. I feel Arab. And comparing being ginger to thousands of migrant workers of that building stadiums. I mean, we all know FIFA's corrupt. We've seen that for years, but at least Blatter had the decency to be, clever about it. Infantino is just purely dumb. How can you be like this? It's just shocking.
Yeah.
FIFA as an organization is just, yeah, I'm not sure where do they go from there. Anyway, let's move on to football, which wasn't that great, to be fair, as well, some of the games. Sorry,
Yeah.
Maren, go ahead.
No, as a podcast, as a group of friends, I think we all agree, and you're the voice for us all. But it isn't justice being served, but karma's a bitch. What goes around comes around, and I'm sure one day they'll pay the price for their actions. But we don't want to depress our 25 viewers. So let's move on to the England performance. Actually 50. Last video popped off, so more of the same, please. No, guys, look, with England's performance, I think there's two sides to the coin. I'm going to start with Paul on this one. Just a very simple question. Was England that good, or was Iran that bad?
It's not a simple question, because I think it's a mixture of both. I will say about my previous comments, those were all based on me thinking England will be playing this defensive and boring 5-2-3.
You were caught in 4K, bro. You can't take it back.
I was caught in 4K, and I will admit it. This is my apology, just like Shudor did. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe as I say my apology. But I am sorry, England. I'm sorry, Southgate, for doubting you. If we continue to play like this, that would be top level. I think England played really well. I think the player decisions that he chose, even if it was Maguire starting, he proved I think he had a great game. I think every single player in that team had a great game. And I think that they just need to continue on this form and continue with this belief that they have.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, as you said, he's changed your mind, and I'm sure he's changed hundreds of thousands of people's minds back home in the UK. But I think for you, if England reach a final, we're going to have to get you a karaoke of you singing Southgate, You're the One.
I'm all for it. If England win the World Cup, I'll sing that. Yeah, no problem.
Arad, for you, I think as an Iranian, you weren't showing it at the pub, but I think you do support Iran. So I should put that out there. Fake fan, plastic. But apart from that, what do you make of that game? Was it a lackluster performance from Iran? Were we naive going into that game, or was England just having the game of their lives? And how do you see the next fixture playing out for both these teams?
Look, Iran haven't traditionally in World Cups or even normal fixtures got beat heavily. We've come up against good teams in the past. Argentina, Portugal come to mind. 1-1 against Portugal, 1-0 loss against Argentina. So we have been defensively solid, but look, I think England fans are going over the top. It was always going to happen. And it sort of is a double-edged sword. It's sort of, if you play Iran and you don't do well, it's Iran, how are you not beating them? But even if you do beat Iran, it was always going to be, well, it's only Iran. And, we talk about players like Maguire having a good performance. I mean, lads, if he's not having a good performance against Iran, a team that barely scores goals, call it quits. I don't know how old he is, 28, 29, but honestly, call it quits, mate. 80 million pound defender, if you're not going to have a good game. And even then, he lost his man for one of Iran's goals. So I don't think England can get carried away with the performance. I don't think Southgate's changed his mind either on formations. Once he comes up against teams that are slightly more respectable opposition than Iran, you could even see it against US and Wales. He might revert back to the 5-3-2 or 5-2-3. We can't judge England's World Cup hopes or progression on Iran and putting 6 past them. It just isn't fair. So let's just see what England do next game. I'm not writing them off. Well, I am writing them off for winning the tournament, but I'm not writing them off reaching quarters, semis maybe, but they're going to have to be much, much, much better teams than Iran. So let's just hold off the champagne until then.
Yeah, I think, speaking of semis, Paul's going to get one if England get to the final. But Daniel, I know you're more of our voice of justice. So I'll come to you with a not related to the performance question here. I don't know if you saw the Iranian players before the game refused to sing the national anthem. Of course, there's a lot of turmoil and, a lot of horrible situations happening back in Iran. Do you reckon that played a factor in the game? And with that being said, do you reckon the players have the potential to turn it around in the next couple of games, or is that never going to happen?
Considering as to what happened, it's not just that. I think in the pre-match interview, the Iran's captain, he made a comment of something with the, I think, rainbow. I'm not sure what the statement was exactly. I read it, but I forgot what he said. And he said that we stand by the protesters or we stand by the families, and we wish them all the best. From what's happening in Iran, with the government now agreeing to voting to execute the 15,000 protesters that are currently held in jail, I think it's a very, very brave statement, because we don't know what's going to happen to him when they go back after the World Cup. The team statement as well, I think the Iranian fans in the stadium applauded that decision, and I think they booed or they whistled the national anthem, which is actually a very brave decision as well. Going to the football side, I'm not sure that really affected the team as much. I think what affected them more was the injury to the goalkeeper. I think that was more of a blow than reasons that not involved with football. Whether to turn it around, it's a tough question, because by looking at how Iran played, they look dreadful. And I'm not sure how they fare up against Wales or the US. If US start the half as they did against Wales, then it's going to be another loss for Iran, I feel. Same with Wales. I don't know. Wales weren't looking that impressive. Whatever, maybe they'll do better in the next game. But I don't know. It's a level of opposition. I think we need to see. I think some of you mentioned, we should assess England and other teams as how they play against tougher teams. I think Spain just won 7-0 against Costa Rica. Impressive win, but it's Costa Rica. Same with England. They won, but it's against Iran. So let's see how Iran do in the next round of fixtures. I think it's Wales, right? Or it's US?
Yeah,
it's
Wales.
the US.
Yep.
No. Is it US?
Wales.
So Wales,
England,
Wales,
USA, Wales, Iran.
Okay, so if Iran managed to beat Wales, then I think the last game of the tournament is going to be very interesting. Even a draw would be all right, but again, it's really tough to make decisions about that group apart from England.
Yeah, I think we've said it before in the previous podcast. That group is made up of one heavy favorite and 3 teams which can easily snatch that second place. But speaking of underdog stories, I want to move on to probably the most controversial and exciting result we've had this week. Saudi Arabia absolutely beating the living shit out of Argentina in the second half. Messi didn't show up. And I want to start with Arad on this one. It looked all good. First half, 10 minutes in, Messi gets his goal, starts doing his little celebrations. And then next thing you know, they get 3 goals ruled out for offside and the game runs away from them. What do you think went wrong?
A lot went wrong. Not much went right for Argentina, to be honest. Same old problems as they've had in previous competitions and tournaments. It seems like Messi can't carry the team on his shoulders. With Saudi Arabia, it is worth noting. I think I saw this. They had 6 or 7 friendly games before the World Cup. Their league was called off about a month early so that their players could prepare for the World Cup. Obviously, Argentina can't have that luxury because they have players in European leagues, top leagues across Europe. So, and it was quite evident with how defensively robust and organized Saudi Arabia were. They really didn't give many chances away, and that offside trap worked magic. Like you said, 3 offside goals, and they were offside. No debate about it. And the only goal that Argentina can score is a penalty. And let's be honest, a light penalty. It's a harsh one to give. I guess if that's given, then you have to look at the England one and say, why wasn't that given? I mean, I don't think either are penalties, but it just goes to show that Saudi really didn't give much away. And they took 2 really, really good goals. So I'm excited to see Saudi in the next game. It's not beyond the realm of possibility that they go through to the next round. It's one draw, or well, they can go through with the draw, but a win basically secures them to go through to the next round, which would be, unheard of, 51st ranked team. But I still think Argentina will pull 2 wins out the hat and progress, but maybe just not as easily as we would have thought they would.
Yeah, that's a fair way to look at it. I think with Paul, I touched on it already. Messi couldn't carry that team. That's been said a lot in the last few years when Argentina doesn't do well. Messi doesn't have the potential to carry a team. But you look back, I think obviously none of us are old enough to remember the days, but surely you can look at results and competitions and with Maradona. And, the line they're tracing with Messi and Maradona being incredibly talented legends of the game. Do you reckon that weight on his shoulders to follow the footsteps of Maradona and lift the cup, a World Cup in that sense, do you think that's too much for Messi to handle?
I don't think it's the comparison to Maradona, because I believe he is a better, in history, he'll go down as better than Maradona, I believe. Why can't Messi carry a team? I don't really know. I didn't see the game in full. I only saw parts of it because I was working at that time. So, take a sneak peek while you're working. I didn't see the game in full, just saw the parts. And what I did see was an Argentina that did try to rely on Messi, but Messi didn't want them to. He wanted to encourage others to play, and he would be giving passes on to other players while they were just looking back for him. So it's kind of, maybe they need to figure out, right, are we all just going to be looking for Messi every time we have the ball? He's going to score us the goals? Or is Messi going to be feeding us the ball so we can score the goals? I think there needs to be a conversation to have there. But take nothing away from Saudi Arabia. That second goal, I don't know what that guy's name is, but sign him up. Somebody, please. The way he got past 3 players and puts it top bin. Wow.
Yeah, I think, one number 10 showed up that day and the other one didn't, right? But, Saudi Arabia, congrats to them. They had a national holiday today. And in the words of Infantino, today I feel Saudi. So I want to take the day off as well.
Yes.
But Daniel, going on Saudi Arabia, do you reckon they have a chance of getting out of that group? Because they've got Mexico and Poland next. And they've already got that very important 3 points. A draw almost guarantees them getting over the line since the other game ended in a draw. So do you see it happening? And if not, who takes that second spot?
They're looking really, really strong this year, honestly. I didn't expect the result. Again, I didn't watch the game. It was 2 a.m. for us, so too much. I wasn't even thinking of watching it. I nearly fell out of my bed when I saw the result, but that's a different conversation. The group is very interesting again because I think the next game is actually Mexico-Argentina. Poland on paper always look good, but they always fail to show up. What's happening with Lewandowski on the international stage is a mystery. Every year, 2 years, I'm counting the years on the World Cup, he doesn't show up. It's like he just goes through it. I watched a Mexico-Poland game. Mexico looked better as a team. They looked much better. They had chances. They were unlucky not to score. I think Saudi Arabia have a really good chance against Poland. As you said, a draw will do. I think a draw will do it for them. Honestly, it will. Not mathematically, but I think looking at the results, it will. Then, if we move on to the second place teams, that's an interesting conversation to have because Argentina might draw the next game and still qualify if the results go their way. Mexico-Argentina game, which is next, is going to be very interesting. Very, very interesting. It's going to be an exciting game to watch. And just to finish it off with Argentina, for me, they have the best assembled team for years. At least the best they had for many World Cups. Not just Messi. Their defense looks good. They have a quality keeper. They have a good cast to support Messi and strikers and midfielders. So again, I'm not sure as to what's happening with them, but they might win the next game 3-0, 4-0, and we're going to be back to singing their praises. Let's see what happens next game week.
Yeah, you're right. I think, as you said, Messi, he's got the whole cast there. And, same goes with Ronaldo, both of the GOATs. No more excuses. That's what this World Cup should be. They've both got solid teams behind them. So it's a matter of who delivers. But let's move on to the next topic. So, guys, with the next round of fixtures, I'm going to move on to today. And been a few shocks already. I think we're used to shockers at this point of this World Cup, but I'm going to start with Daniel on this. Germany, Japan, before the game, everyone thought Japan, didn't come in probably with any expectations. Germany was considered not one of the favorites, but at least a very strong team to get to the latter stages. What happened in that game? What went wrong? I don't know if you saw it, but any thoughts?
Was it 5 a.m. kickoff? Again, I haven't watched it. Watched the highlights though, right before the podcast to understand what I was dealing with. Germany had a lot of good chances, at least. They should have scored more. They could have scored more. Yet they didn't. Japan utilized what they had really, really well, and you can't say they didn't deserve to win because they did. It's a shocker result because nobody expects Japan to beat Germany. But I would have to say that Germany had the result coming. You look at their squad, and it's nothing to write home about. It's not like 2014 or even 2018 where you look at it and you think, okay, the squad is filled to the brink with superstars in their positions and similar. You're starting Havertz up top. Do you not have a better striker than the entire 20 million Germans who can play up top? Really? We kind of thought of this when we looked at their squad, and no offense to the lad, but when you take a 17-year-old as a striker who's playing his first season really in professional football, you're in trouble. But let's not take away from anything from Japan. They are an amazing team. If you look at their team, and it's so full, your silky, skillful players. They have a few playing in the Premier League. Tomiyasu again being brilliant for the second half, from what I've read. Their team, you don't really hear much about Japanese players. They don't have those, superstars, apart from probably, years gone by with Nakata and Kagawa. Their players are very skillful, very tidy, and very, very well drilled. And it's not really a shock if you think about it that they managed to beat Germany. Who else is in their group?
Spain and Costa Rica.
Okay, so they're gonna beat Costa Rica because if we touch on about the topic, I have things to say. But it will be interesting who takes the second spot in this group now. It really is.
Yeah, definitely. I think you mentioned, the German squad lacking strikers, and like you said, they've got so many players. And if we're going to take history for one thing, the Germans know how to shoot. So how they don't have a striker is beyond me. Moving on to to Paul over here, I think, look, with Japan, are they a well-drilled side? Yes. Do they have any star players? No. So can you see them actually snatching that second place in the group ahead of either Germany or Spain?
Before this game, I would have said no. I think they can get it. I think Germany's next game is Spain. And after just seeing them beat Costa Rica, what was it, 7-0? I stopped watching at 6, but did they score another one?
Yeah.
I think so did the manager, to be honest, but yeah, 7-0.
Yeah, their next game is against Spain. I don't see them winning that game. So even if they did beat Costa Rica, they're already out of the World Cup by then. So I think it's a really concerning thing. I think Germany, honestly, I think they did deserve to win it. If it wasn't for their goalkeeper pulling 4 incredible stops, one after another, if Havertz would have just taken a step back and stayed onside, that would have been 2-0 game over. I think they're really unlucky, but they're now in a really tight situation. Japan need to build on this win. Their next game's against Costa Rica. I think they can win that, and then they're through.
Yeah, and that will be scary days, because if they go through with another win, there's one spot left, Arad, for Germany or Spain. Who takes that spot and why?
Spain. You said at the beginning of your question that we're expecting Germany to go far in the tournament. I don't get the German hype. With the when we were doing the picks last week, we put them second because I guess we just didn't rate or know much about Costa Rica and Japan. I don't rate Germany. I don't look at their squad, and nothing scares me. The only thing that I rate about Germany is their manager, Hansi Flick. And
I think that was the main factor, probably.
Yeah, but that's it. You don't look at that squad and it doesn't send shivers down your spine. Like, I don't really think a starting lineup could come out on whenever was it Tuesday, Wednesday they play Spain, that we could think, oh, wow, okay, they stand the chance. But I suppose it's somewhat the same with Spain, where it's not really, you don't look at that squad and you don't have the Javis and Iniestas and David Villa. Like, we grew up watching Spain of that, era. The lineup dominated you and you were too scared stepping on the pitch. Same now with Spain. They don't have that. Like Germany had Klose and Ozil and Cruz and all these like legends of the game and Lam. But yeah, none of those teams have great squads or lineups. It's just Spain, I guess, got the better start, and yeah, beating 7, you're gonna go through after winning 7-0. I mean, if you don't go through after beating a team 7-0, then just retire.
Germany
Yeah.
Spain is. Sorry, I was just going to say Germany Spain is on Sunday, the last game.
Oof.
Okay, yeah,
That'll
I think that's the
that'll be
most
worth watching.
one thing. We've actually got because I think often in World Cups, for some reason, whether by luck or not, these games between the top 2 of the group have often been scheduled as the last game, which has often become meaningless. But this year, it actually falls that a lot of those big games between the, let's say, 2 favorites of the group have fallen in the middle. Game 2, which is still all to play for because none of them have technically qualified, and it's going to be a lot to play for in many groups. And yeah, with this game, even more so now.
Yeah, I think it's scary times certainly to be German, and we all want the drama, but none of us expected it. Looking back at last week, I think this is the group we called the fastest. Germany, Spain, moving on. Next group, please. But how wrong we are. I think in the end of the World Cup, we should do a reaction video to those initial thoughts.
Yeah.
No, thank you. No, thank you. The curse was real. I take it back. Germany forgot to pass on the curse to France.
Yeah, they definitely forgot. That's it. But very quickly, I mean, we already touched on this, but Spain cruising to victory, 7-0. It is the largest winning margin in the World Cup history, topping England 6-1, which they had. That type of dominance, do you reckon it was, again, going back to the England-Iran topic, is it that much of a dominant Spain side we're witnessing? Or did they get lucky against an opposition side who is that much worse than them, Paul, that they just can't really function and they gave up and they just kept banging in goals?
We could compete against that Costa Rica team. Our five-a-side team could genuinely compete. The stuff they were doing is schoolboy errors. I don't know what is going on. I think it was the 4th goal or something like that. The ball's coming in. There's a goalkeeper, defender, and then Ferran Torres. And Ferran Torres somehow gets in between the goalkeeper and the defender to go get the ball and then tap it into an empty net. Like, there just needs to be basic communication. Keeper put a name on it. Defender put a name on it. It's schoolboy mistakes for them.
Yeah, I think you're right. We've already sort of touched on the Spain win, but Arad, the Spain in the back, 2010, 2012, with the Euros, they had such incredible players. They had, I think, the top 2 of the top 3 Ballon d'Or contestants back in 2008, and 7 of their 11 players were Barcelona legends. Now they're making up their squad of players who are young, but not necessarily star players for that matter. Do you think that will actually benefit them as a youth in the squad is there and they've got that DNA? I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Spain won the Junior Euros, didn't they, last year? So that same squad is now, some of them are playing for the World Cup. Do you think that type of coordination they've got is taken into the World Cup, or do you think this Spain team will not go far?
I think the Spain team is really good. I'll go back to what I just said. Germany and Spain have very similar, they're very similar in my eyes, because I also look at Luis Enrique and I see an amazing manager there as well. I think that's their biggest asset. Going back to the Spain of old that won 3 things, and was it like Euros, World Cup Euros?
Yeah.
Going back to that team, was it Del Bosque, the name of the manager in charge?
Yeah.
See, I think Del Bosque is not as good of a manager as Luis Enrique. I think he had a much, much better squad than Enrique. But I think Enrique is a better manager. So, Spain can go far, but I don't put them as heavy favorites to even reach a semis. I just think what I saw today was an identity that Spain always have, which is keep the ball nice and tidy, they'll pass it around the back in the midfield if they have to for 3 or 4 minutes, but then they'll find an opening, a slot to go through. And that's all they did today. Again, Paul's right. It is schoolboy errors against Costa Rica, and very much like Iran, we don't want to be judging Spain's chances in the World Cup or reaching any latter stages based on a win against Costa Rica, no matter how dominant it was. But I think Luis Enrique is their biggest asset, just like Hansi Flick for Germany. So look, don't put it past Germany to beat Spain. If Germany beats Spain, because again, I don't put much between these two teams. What if Japan had played the Spain team today? Could you say that they had no chance against them? Well, no. So yeah, I think Spain are good, but they're not the real deal. No.
Daniel, you had some some thoughts you wanted to share with the Spain-Costa Rica game. So
Yeah.
the floor is yours, my man.
I specifically opened my phone to just see the squad that Spain started the game with, and I'm looking at it, and it's not like anything screams at me, oh, what a player. It's Unai Simons in goal. Rodri started at the back with Laporte. They have, let's be honest, they have some very quality players like Javi, Pedri, Ferran Torres, Dani Olmo, but they had Asensio playing a striker. That I don't think that would stick against Germany, whether it is or isn't. However, their bench, I think, has very impressive players. Pau Torres, Balde, Pino, Fati was an unused sub. Soler scored a goal today. They have a very young squad, a very hungry squad that, if you're not a La Liga fan or you don't watch much of La Liga, you probably wouldn't know much about. But I think, again, as some of you mentioned, the manager factor. I think Enrique is a much better manager than Hansi Flick, in my opinion. He's proved it numerous times with, at club level. He won, I think he was the manager who won last triple with Barcelona. He won the Champions League in the Cup. But again, I think the next Spain-Germany game will actually be an interesting one to watch. If Spain dominate that game, we can truly say that Spain will be a serious contender for this World Cup. I think it would be interesting to say. But I think we need to move on and discuss Costa Rica. I haven't watched the game, but you don't lose 7-0. I'm looking at the squad. I'm like, Keylor Navas and Joe Campbell. Joe Campbell hasn't, been playing anywhere in my, recent memory. He appeared in 2014, and since then, I don't think I've seen him anywhere else. I think we need to have a talk about the CONCACAF qualification system. I think 3 teams or 4 teams qualify, something like that. And I'm sorry, you can name we can name US, Mexico, and Canada perhaps, and that's it. The other teams that compete for that spot are Bahamas, St. Kitts and Nevis, Cuba, Antigua and Barbados, those small nations. And look, no offense to any of those nations, but when you have a qualification process as thorough as it is in Europe, where reigning champions Italy don't make it through because they lose on a 90th minute to Northern Macedonia, how do you allow teams like Costa Rica, to qualify for the World Cup in such an easy qualifying process? I think it's something we should discuss, and we should be very congratulative towards Spain and their performance. But let's not get it twisted. Costa Rica are a horrendous team that should have made the World Cup. We had Panama last in 2018, for goodness sake. Again, a team no shots taken. I don't mean any disrespect to those teams, but they're not World Cup level teams. They shouldn't be at the World Cup. We have teams like Colombia missing out, teams like Chile missing out, teams like Italy missing out, and we have teams like Costa Rica making it to the World Cup. I know it's not a footballing related question in this sense, but it's not fair towards other teams. So I think
I want to echo what you're saying, actually, Daniel. I agree with you 100%. And as much as it's nice to see teams like Saudi Arabia beating Argentina, even in the context of this current World Cup, me personally watching the World Cup, I want the best teams through. And it's exactly the same with the qualification process. I want, when we're talking about the World Cup, it's the best 32 teams. I don't think that's the case. And of course, you go back to, it's like this with any competition. Even you look at the Champions League, is it really the best 16 teams in the round of 16? More often than not, it's not. A team can have a bad day, a bad night, and then you don't get the next round. But definitely conversations need to be had about smaller teams coming into the World Cup, because, even hosts Qatar. Listen, the other 3 teams in that group are basically battling out for 2 spots. It's not 4 teams battling it out, because there's just no way Qatar is ever going to even threaten the second spot. So, and it shouldn't be that way. We want to see the best 32 teams. So I echo that 100%.
I mean, Qatar literally created their national team like 10 years ago, so they had no history of football in the past. So it's
well, I would actually disagree with that opinion, because at the end of the day, it's called the World Cup. It's not the best 32. It's not the Super League. It's the World Cup. I want to see every country represented, because if we did really just put the best 32 teams, it would be Europe and Southern American teams, and that would be it. There would be no representatives from Africa, Asia, or North America. And I find that a bit boring and a bit repetitive after time.
I mean, can I ask you though,
times we see these. Let me just finish. So many times we see these great fairy tale stories where in 2010 we see Ghana trying almost making it all the way to the semifinals. If we just say let the best 32 teams come, they don't even get to have a chance to do that. This year, we wouldn't even see Saudi Arabia beating Argentina. We wouldn't see Japan even playing Germany, let alone beating them. The idea of just putting the best 32 countries in the World Cup, and then that's that, is the same idea as a Super League, where I'm not in it. Are some of the qualifications a bit easier than others? Yes, they are. But that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles in this situation. As much as, no one enjoys watching a 7-0. But I think they have every right to compete, be there, and participate as much as any other team, because they put all those games in. They got the results to get there.
Yeah, I think, moving on to next topics, just to finish up on what you guys are saying, maybe we need to just, think of a different qualifying system, maybe intercontinental qualifiers, where you play teams from a separate continent and you don't restrict it based on geographical locations. But thanks to Daniel and Arad, we lost our Qatari and our Costa Rican fans. So thanks, boys.
The two of them.
48 views this week.
Yeah, less views this week. We know why. No problem. Okay, moving on, guys. I think I just want to finish up on this note over here. I want one team from you guys over here and an answer as to why. So first of all, I'm going to go around the table here. Most impressive team so far. I know we still haven't seen 2 groups play, and we're going to get to see them tonight. Well, tonight and tomorrow, we're going to get to see a few more teams. But we are almost at the end of the first round. Barring less surprises, or more surprises for that matter, so far, Daniel, who has been the most impressive team and why?
I'm trying to look at. I mean, probably the obvious answer would be Saudi Arabia, mainly because of the result they got. I know, but I'll have a different opinion. I'll say it's Japan, mainly because I think all of us skipped past that group in like 2 seconds, and we didn't give them a sniff, and we didn't think about anything that they could do, and they did. So they look good. They can catch teams on the counter. They can catch teams with their fast attacks. So I think it's Japan, in my opinion.
Yeah. Paul?
Do I go with my head or do I go with my heart? Yeah, let's go with our heart. England, most impressive. England.
You should have gone with the other one, bro. England, why?
Just because so many times we see in a World Cup, the pressure and all the build-up that comes to the World Cup and the toxicity that's often in the camp gets the better of too many teams. We've seen a better England starting lineups than this not perform to the same level as this. Yes, it is Iran, but still, I see this group of kids just free and excited to play football, not so much scared as I've seen other generations.
That's fair. Arad?
France. I think they've gone under the radar. We didn't even speak about them tonight. Listen, I'm just going to say, guys, I know, Daniel, I respect you say Japan, but I cannot agree with that because it's a fluke result. Paul's right. Germany could have, maybe should have won that game. Argentina could have, maybe should have won that game. I mean, I didn't think you'd say it just because me and you do share the same opinion that the best team should be qualifying, and Japan is not the best team in the group. They're not even the second best team. Just put it this way: if England get through, or like, let's say England are through to the round of 16, would you rather England get, or not even England, any team gets an easy bye in the round of 16 because a fluke team from the group stages got a win that they maybe didn't deserve. For me, that's not an impressive performance. That's a lucky performance. And I'm going to disagree, and I'll say that why.
Japan's arguably
France
second best team in Asia, so no, I disagree with you on that one.
Well, no, I know, but again, it's Asia. we've just said it's Asia.
It's a huge continent. There's a lot of teams there.
I know, but
so.
When's the last time an Asian team won a World Cup? I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Asia is not known for its footballing ability. But anyway, I'll go back to my point. France has gone under the radar. They went 1-0 down against Australia, but then to come back and score, was it 5? They won 5-1.
5-1.
5-1, and Mbappe was on fire. And considering, and I'll say France as well for a second reason, they've had the most crucial injuries. In Nkunku and Benzema out, and they've still scored 5 with Giroud up top. Got to give some respect to Giroud and his goal scoring ability in a French shirt. And then they also lost Theo Hernandez, their left back. So they're getting the worst injuries, but I think they're strong favorites to go to the final for me. I put them all the way up to the final.
Also, Pogba and Kante are absent as well. So
Pogba, Kante, yeah. So there's a lot of gears France haven't even gone through, but they won't even have to, go through them. They can't. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to state we don't have anything against Japan going through. I think I share this view with Paul as well. I think if Japan do make it through, it's not a fluke. If they're the second best team in their group, they're the second best team. And as you said out last week, if a team gets through to those knockout stages, you start believing. And we all love an underdog story. Sure, they're not going to win the tournament. But the fact they even get there, put their name in that conversation, play a big team, it's one game, it's not a double-legged fixture, anything can happen. So I'm going to have to strongly disagree with you there. But I'm going to move on to the least impressive team. And I tell you what, if any of you fuckers say Iran, you're off the podcast. Right? So we'll go around again with Daniel. Least impressive team and why?
Look, this is not me hating on Qatar, but Qatar. I mean, they're a host nation every time, even if you're crap or if you're don't have a rich football history, aka South Africa. You as a host nation perform at the first game of the tournament. You show up and you be the best version that you can be. They lost their opening game, the first country to do that in whatever, how long? Since the World Cup has begun. Yeah, it's been being held. Plus, you look at Qatar, they won the Asia Cup 2 years ago. They went far in the Copa America when they were invited. So, look, even people that don't know much about Qatar kind of thought, you know what, they might give Ecuador a run for the money. All the predictions that I watched before the World Cup were saying that Qatar might have a chance to even clinch second. Well, for sure they will be third. Yet they showed up, and it was like watching, I don't know, a five-a-side team play. They created nothing really. They weren't impressive. I think the atmosphere, I mean, it's not the national team's fault, but was absent from the game. And Ecuador had such an easy run. So from what was expected from them, it's Qatar.
Yeah, I think watching that performance, we'd all rather watch Anthony Elanga all day instead of that, right? It was that bad. Paul, least impressive and why?
Either Qatar or Costa Rica. Both of them, like we've said, amateur teams at best, really.
Yeah, that's fair. Short and sweet. I like it. Arad?
Argentina. For me, I had them as the favorites of the World Cup. And
we know.
I'm sorry, you're not beating Saudi Arabia, so I'm gonna give you the least impressive. You should be beating Saudi Arabia. You've got one of the best ever players on your team, Messi. Yeah, least impressive for me by far.
Yeah, I think we've covered most topics, and as we said, we've got another round of fixtures tonight and tomorrow, so a lot more talking points. We will be back again on Monday, I think, to discuss more fixtures.
Yeah.
And then we'll do every Monday, Wednesday from there on until the end of the World Cup, barring any exceptions. But guys, it's been a pleasure as always. Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you soon. And again, don't get caught offside. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.